Cadillac Unscripted on 107.9 CDY is sponsored by Independent Bank.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Cadillac Unscripted. It's an important month. It's Domestic Violence Prevention and Awareness Month. And with us today, we have Ashlie VanAgtmael. She is the Domestic Violence Sexual Assault Prevention Program Director for OASIS Family Resource Center here in Cadillac. Ashlie, you're doing such important work in the community. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Tell us a little bit about what's going on in the month of October, how you're highlighting education and awareness of the agency in the community.
Yeah, so everyone really thinks of October as Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but DV awareness is often forgotten. So it's national, but we want to bring awareness to our local community. And so we have already had amazing events this month. And on the 20th, we are going to have our Candlelight Vigil at the Rotary Pavilion from 6 to 7:30. And so we're going to have some speakers. We're going to have a Michigan State police officer speak. Hopefully we'll have a survivor speak. And just a time to bring awareness and really rally around the community. And then on the 26th of October, the Sweet Shop in downtown Cadillac will have 20% of their proceeds that they make that day will go right to OASIS, which directly impacts our ability to serve survivors.
And it's funny because October is also a Sweet Shop month, isn't it? Where everybody likes going in there for caramel apples.
Absolutely.
And all that yummy stuff. So a thank you to Janine Russell, who owns the Sweet Shop. She's a leader in Cadillac, and she's supporting an important organization. Your Candlelight Vigil, it's honoring survivors. It's a somber night. Can you tell us what happens at that event?
Yeah, my first one was last year, and with COVID, I think what I was told, it wasn't as big as it normally was. But, we have all walks of life that come out. We have just community members, we have police force, and survivors, and we're just there, and it's a very, just a meaningful moment. You kind of have to be there to describe it and to feel it, but it's very somber and purposeful, and just making that awareness known, because so many people in our community do not think that domestic violence really happens here.
I know it.
But it does, and it's often, and it's all walks of life. So it really just is a remembrance and an education of it is here, and what does our community want to do about it?
Right. Tell us, your relationship with law enforcement is so critical. Tell us about that.
Yeah, their response really is the key to a survivor's future with a case, whatever that looks like for them, whatever that it is that they want. And so we really work hard with them on training pieces, just partnering, how can we better our language with survivors, to help police. And they have had so many wonderful survivors or law enforcement that have come to the hospital when we respond, and they're just kind and caring, and that impact for a survivor will really help them to determine and feel what their next step is going to be with that assailant case.
It's support, isn't it? And
yes.
It takes a lot. I served on the OASIS board for 11 years, and I was shocked to learn, and I think our listeners, Ashlie, would be shocked to learn how many instances of abuse need to happen on an average, let's say, statistically, before a victim reaches out for help. Can you speak to that?
I don't know the current statistics. I think the last one I read was it usually takes around 7 or 8 times for a survivor to actually leave and stay away from the perpetrator, which is common. And, and that is the biggest question that I think as people who are not familiar with domestic violence don't understand is the question is always, why do they stay?
Right.
Why don't they just leave? Well, there are so many factors for a person of why they can't or don't feel safe in doing so. And so that is really, that's the biggest question that we hear a lot from people.
For somebody out there that's dealing with this right now in their life, what would you tell them? They could be a victim. They don't know where to turn. What next steps or what resources would you advise?
Yeah, certainly that depends on, where they're at. If someone was truly ready to leave and they had a specific time and where they were safe to leave, they can call us. They can call the National Domestic Violence Awareness Hotline. And they have people on demand that can help walk them through that. And certainly our local crisis hotline as well. But I think a lot of people, they're planning it, to leave. They're looking at financially their children, do they have support? So certainly anyone can just call us and say, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm thinking about. And how can we help them? And we certainly serve people who are still with their perpetrator. It's not up to us to determine what they do. We are just accompanying them and giving them tools and resources along their journey.
Right. Okay. The agency itself has multiple locations and multiple outreach. Can you talk to us about Second Chance, the shelter itself, your corporate offices, and kind of how those three bodies work together?
So we all work together, even though we're in the different buildings. And at the administration building, which is right downtown, located right across from the bookstore.
Right.
We have our non-residential advocates. We also have our parenting department, which is not domestic violence related, but certainly survivors are welcome to be referred to that program. And then at Second Chance, anyone's donations go right to survivors. Mm-hmm. So some people want to donate to our office or the shelter, which is fine for the shelter usually. But it's best to go right to Second Chance because then that just rolls over into survivors' funds and what we can give them.
So you're suggesting go ahead and donate your items that you no longer want to Second Chance because 100% of those proceeds from the resale store go to helping victims.
Yes, it's advocacy. It's us being able to help provide, maybe security cameras, things like that, in an urgent need. The money goes a long way with what we're able to do. And for our shelter, our temporary emergency shelter, we have wonderful staff that operate 24 hours a day, and they are just there to make people feel welcome. We really try and put ourselves in the survivor's shoes and think, what would I want or need if I was in this situation? And so we're very client-centered. We don't have a lot of hard and fast rules, really only safety ones. Mm-hmm. And it's really for people that are fleeing the incident and really trying to get on their feet. And it's just such a wonderful place. And the ladies that work there have hearts of gold, and they just really, really love what they do.
It's a safe haven, Ashlie. I've been there.
Yeah.
And you see, kind of women living together with their children and taking on different tasks and duties within the household and planning meals and keeping things tidy. Mm-hmm. And it's a team, but it's a refuge.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I forgot, we do have one other event. So on the 21st of October, we're going to be at Walmart in the parking lot from 4 to 6, and Michigan State Police loans us their trailer, and so their few officers are present there, and the public are welcome to donate perishable items, canned goods into that, and those items go directly to our shelter.
That's great.
So, yeah, it's fun.
What is capacity at the shelter? What's the maximum amount of people that can live there at one time?
Well, we just built another room. We had some great funds through the state for COVID relief. So our capacity is roughly around 16 families or single ladies but now because of COVID, it's about half of that.
Okay. I see. That impacted your...
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we try to make sure that we have one family per room as much as possible. Just to be safe and make sure that we're not crossing, our germs and all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Trying to keep everybody safe.
Mm-hmm.
How often is the shelter at capacity?
Well, last summer, so that was my first summer there, we were very, very low. Almost for a few weeks, we didn't have anyone in shelter, which was really concerning because we knew that it was happening.
Right.
But because of COVID, there were so many unknowns. People weren't coming out of the woodwork.
I see.
So since I have been there, we have steadily been full. It ebbs and flows, certainly, with the weather, the holidays, things like that. But generally speaking, we're at capacity.
If we had a donor out there, if we had a listener that wanted to make a donation, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Yeah, so we have a donor relations coordinator. Her name is Cindy Vogt, and they can certainly call our main number and get a hold of her. But certainly, we take cash, checks, anything. But if there's a certain something special that, someone's wanting to donate, they can just call us and see if we're in need. And so, and oftentimes we'll put things on Facebook of what we need. Thanksgiving is coming up, so we'll be reaching out in the community for certain, items for meals. And then at Christmas we do, you can be a match with a family and donate gifts. So, I would start with that.
The folks in shelter get to have a Christmas too.
They do, yes. And that is fun to see there, and have the kids be there on Christmas morning to open their presents is really great for the staff to see.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it makes everybody smile.
Yeah.
Question, I know you work on life skills for these ladies. And my question would be, sometimes you've got someone leaving a situation, maybe they haven't worked or maybe they've been a full-time mother. How do you prepare that person for life without the significant other, mentally and financially and emotionally?
Yeah.
How do you get that person ready?
Well, what do we start with? What are their goals? So if they identify a goal as, I want to have a job, I want to keep a job, and I want to have my own apartment, and I want to be independent. So we start with, we talk about their credit history. We talk about, do you have things in your name? Or because oftentimes the abuser won't let them have anything in their name. He totally, completely controls the finances. So they have nothing to their name to be able to go get a credit card. So we just kind of start with education. We find out a little bit more about, what they have, and then look at, do they want employment? Do they need to go back to school? Do they want to get their GED? Just really going with what they're looking for. And certainly we walk alongside them. So if, they're struggling with bills, we refer them to different places in our community that can help with certain pieces of bills or items that they may need.
Wow. It's a lot. How large is your staff total?
I think 23.
Okay.
Is where we're at right now.
Mm-hmm. And some of that's administration, and some of that's counselors, and some of that's your
the
shelter
store.
advocates.
Yep.
The store, right? Yep. What percentage? And I'm not talking about hard numbers, but roughly, how much of the total budget is covered by Second Chance and the proceeds that you net there? How important is that piece?
Yeah, I don't know the percentage, but it's so important because that goes into our general fund, and that allows us to be able to serve people in a different way, because we are primarily grant funded, and they're strict on, what we can spend and what we can't. And you have to be obviously ethical to that. So that general fund is very important, and those donations, it really impacts, like I said, if we can get someone, some security cameras or baby monitors, things that we don't always think of.
Right.
And then having those items be donated to Second Chance, we have a voucher system, so we can actually give them a voucher that says what they need on it. They take it right to the store, and the amazing store staff, they help them go shopping. And
like they might need pots and pans. Actually.
Absolutely. Silverware, anything, we've helped so many people, when they leave the shelter or they're going into our transitional housing program, we help them with their basic essentials to live on.
Wow. And back to grants, and we're thankful for grants. We need grants. via the state of Michigan. But to your point, grants have specific use requirements. And when you apply for a grant and you're lucky enough to receive one, and you've put in all that work to write the grant, but you can't just spend that money wherever you want. It's got to go into that specific bucket.
Yes.
And you may have a critical need somewhere else. And I think it's important for the community to know that those checks and those donations are so important. Or you may have a grant that says, if you can raise X amount in your community, we'll match what you're able to raise. And basically, I think that's the state's way of saying, how important are you in the community? And does the community recognize you as the go-to to serve this population of people? And what I can tell you about OASIS is, yes, everybody knows what you guys do, and the community believes in what you're doing. Been around a long time, doing really important work quietly.
Yes.
Quietly.
Yep.
It's such a private thing.
It is.
And like you say, Ashlie, there are no socioeconomic levels to this. It doesn't just hit one piece of the population.
Right.
It
all
can,
walks of life.
Yeah. And then there's the shame associated with it too.
Absolutely.
I think it, from what I saw when I was, serving on the board, it was, first of all, I can't believe I'm in this situation, right? And then it's, I don't even know how to, I can't, I've been with this person forever. I don't know. I'm codependent. I don't know life without, and by the way, where's the money going to come from? And so that brings me to another program that is so important, and the agency did not start with it. It's something that it evolved to, and that's transitional housing. Can you tell us what that looks like and what that program's all about?
Yeah, so our transitional housing program, we often call it TSH. We have 16 units that we provided the funds to be able to serve people of domestic violence and sexual assault. So we have these 16 units that ladies can come in through our non-residential advocates. They fill out an application. They have an interview with our advocates in that program, and they determine, based on barriers, strengths, needs, all those things, who is best appropriate for the program. And so we are actually able to pay rent for these ladies and help with utilities and such for up to 2 years. And so that to be able to have that relief, to know that we can help pay your rent, you get things in order, and we have the advocate does those life skills. They do that advocacy piece so that it's preparing them to live independently, to find permanent housing, and really just to live whatever life they have built for themselves.
When you say life skills, can you give me some specifics on what that is?
Yeah, so we do a lot of, again, financial, even things like cleaning. How to get a spot off of a couch that a kid may have made a mess. Time management, how to read a bill. How often do you go get your mail? All of these things that some people just don't know how to do because they've never been taught it. That's where we just come in and say, let us walk along beside you. We're not going to shame you. What can we do? And we do it.
Everyone can use help with life skills.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, she'll be a perfect person, right?
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh, it's just an amazing legacy that you guys have in the Cadillac community. We're going to be back right after this break. Cadillac Unscripted is sponsored by Independent Bank, and today we've got Ashlie with us. She is the program director for domestic violence and sexual assault prevention with the OASIS Family Resource Center here in Cadillac. We'll be right back.
A reminder that Cadillac Unscripted is sponsored by Independent Bank. Cadillac Unscripted on 107.9 CDY is sponsored by Independent Bank.
We are back. It is October, and it is Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault Prevention Awareness Month here in Cadillac. And so we've got Ashlie with OASIS here in the studio with us this morning. And Ashlie, an important thing, if you're friends with somebody or related to somebody and you think they might be in a bad situation, or you're getting an undercurrent or a vibe, how do you help that person get help if they could be in a potentially abusive relationship?
Yeah, so and sometimes it's hard because the person may not know and could see that they're in a domestic relationship. So, but for certainly the ones that are aware and they're telling you this isn't okay, I'm being hurt, my children are being hurt. One is to believe them.
Okay.
Believe them, be strong in that, and then support and say, okay, what do we need to do? Do you want to leave? Okay, do you need somewhere to stay? All of those steps to make that person safe really as the first priority, because they're not going to be able to move forward with fully leaving that relationship emotionally until they're physically safe. They have to have those safety needs met.
So does that mean help them get out of the situation physically?
If that's what they want, yes.
Okay.
Yes. But certainly if someone isn't sure if they're in that type of relationship, or, they just, maybe they do, and again, they don't want to leave, and that's okay. Children, everything that they have is with this person. So really it's just a conversation of teaching them about power and control. Anyone can Google the power and control wheel, and you'll see the different aspects that abusers control: financial, emotional, physical, sexual, And then when you show people that, it's like, wow, it's in their face. They can't run away from it. Oh, this might be me. And so certainly then it's getting them connected with organizations such as OASIS. There are many across the state, and again, the hotlines. But that really is a good first step, and having a support around that person, no matter if they're staying with that person, if they're leaving, if they've already left. It's really being there and supporting them, because so many of these people are isolated. They're brought to the abuser's hometown, and they don't know anyone.
Right.
And so
that's maybe even by design.
Yes, absolutely. That's a way to keep control over them.
Isn't that something? If, you're constantly juggling resources month to month, we hope we get this grant. We hope we have a big donor campaign. Let's say money was no object. Where would you take the agency, Ashlie?
Oh, goodness. We would have, a bigger shelter, a one that's more equipped and gives people individualized rooms and kitchenettes.
Privacy.
Yes. We would have a bigger office space that allowed us to be able to have more advocates so we could serve more people. And probably to improve our store too. I know that Nancy over at the store, she would really like a new cement in the driveway. So, no, it would be amazing if money was no option, and the things that we could do here to serve women and children and families.
For someone out there listening this morning that thinks, this is pulling at my heartstrings, this is something that I need to work with, that I need to help with, how do they reach out to you? I know you need volunteers in different areas. How can, maybe someone doesn't have the financial resources to help, but they want to roll up their sleeves. How could they get involved in your mission? Yeah,
you call our main number, 775-7299.
Okay. And someone right there will say, they'll put you to work. Is that right?
Yes, they'll get you connected with our donor relations and take you through some background checks and, just basic things, and then get them rolling.
Right. So, story for you, years ago when we started Celebrate Women, which is a luncheon, and we like to raise $20,000 every year in June at this luncheon that recognizes women, it recognizes survivors, and it kind of brings all this to the forefront of the community. Of course, this year it had to be kind of virtual. We did it with baskets, etc. But the very first Celebrate Women that we ever did over 20 years ago, the first female president of the Chamber of Commerce, her name was Grace McKellop. And Grace launched the Sweet Shop here in Cadillac. Oh. And so Grace was one of the women that we were honoring because we picked women out of the community that were role models and leaders and advocates for women. Well, what we didn't know is that Grace was a survivor, that she was raised in an abusive home. So I'm up on the mic with Corey Lindell Denman, and, we're just having kind of a nice ladies' luncheon, talking about important things, but it was all about a really nice meal and, the basket raffle. And so we bring Grace up to say a few words as she receives her nice award for being a female leader. And she gets on the microphone and she starts telling this story, Ashlie. And I'm getting the chills now just sitting here thinking about it. Nobody had a clue. She had never talked about it. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. This is when the Cadillac Country Club was right on Lake Mitchell. And, it used to be right there before those condos went up and the clubhouse moved and all that. So we sat there as Grace told us about her volatile childhood and about surviving and about becoming a leader and why, and the strength that came from being raised in that household and lifting other women up, and why she was so driven. And I knew right then, like, this is my heart, this organization. And like I said, every single woman in the room had tears streaming down their face because we just couldn't believe that this had happened to Grace.
Such an empowered woman had that happen to her.
Right. And so that's why, I hear you say it has no boundaries. It can impact anybody. And so, I think we all need to ask ourselves, what can we be doing to help the agency? How would you tell us the health of the organization is after COVID? You couldn't have fundraisers. You've been applying for grants. How's it going?
I think it's going really well. We just started our new fiscal year. So, we've got some events planned for 2022, and overall we're in a pretty good financial spot, and we're loving the donations, and the Sisters Closet gave us a check the other day when I was over there, so that was really cool. So we're in a good spot.
You know what I say, if you're doing the work that needs to be done, the community will step up and support you. 100%.
Yeah, I've noticed that since I've been at this agency. The community has rallied and just been so amazing. Again, thinking about we haven't had these events and the donations for Thanksgiving and Christmas. Like, we get donations every day at the store, here at our shelter, and it just really shows you the love that the community has for one another, and I'm so blessed to be a part of it.
Awesome. The store, if we could talk to your store manager, Nancy, what kind of stuff does she want?
I don't know.
She's smiling.
Yeah, I really don't know what she would want. We get a lot of clothes, but that's not a bad thing. Maybe thinking of the winter months, cooler, so jackets, boots,
mittens, scarves.
Yeah,
hats.
Especially kid boots. That's a really important need, especially at our shelter. So those kind of items probably right now, but I can also reach out to Nancy and then let you guys know too more exactly what she would like.
Oh, yeah. We'll put it on our Facebook
She's great.
page. Again, you tell the community what you need, and I'll tell you, they'll
They
show
do.
up. And we could also stock your Blue Goose, too.
Yes, absolutely.
So let's go back to, because we're going to wrap up here, let's go back to the events that you have remaining in the month of October, where we need to be for OASIS,
yes.
Okay?
So the 20th from 6 to 7:30 at the Rotary Pavilion for our Candlelight Vigil. October 21st from 4 to 6 in the Walmart parking lot for stuffing the Blue Goose with non-perishable items and canned goods.
Okay.
And October 26th, go to the sweet shop, grab some of those amazing candy apples that they make, and all of the 20% of their proceeds will go to OASIS on that day.
Okay, we're going to get this up on the CDY Facebook page for you too, Ashlie. And I know you're a very busy lady running the Domestic Violence Sexual Assault Prevention Program for OASIS Family Resource Center. What you're doing in our community is saving people. And it's just such important work. Thank you for taking time to be with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, everybody, get out your checkbooks or and write a check to OASIS, or bring your donated items to Second Chance. Nancy will welcome you with open arms. Wait till you see how much stuff's in that back room, huh, Ashlie?
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, support this amazing organization. We're going to be back with more wonderful things happening in the Cadillac community next Saturday on Cadillac Unscripted.